on this one. What is going on, y'all? We are now live and in action. We got a slightly different scenery today. Hopefully you can hear us.
Get unwhite.
It's fine, babe.
It's not. I look like a ghost.
You are a ghost. It's even brighter. Why would you make it brighter? That's good. That's good. How's everybody doing? Today? We're going to be talking about all kinds of good stuff.
Okay, you're just going to have to deal with my white face because apparently I don't get to have color.
You're
today.
a ghost. We are going to be talking about habit forming, positive habits, routines, and how to end negative habits and negative routines. Sorry, I'm looking down at the computer in questions and not up at the camera and lens. But you want to begin this discussion?
No.
Why?
Yes.
There's one. A little mess over here. So I'm reading a book right now called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I really like the book. I'm about halfway through it so far. It's automatically one of my favorite books after about 5 minutes in. Highly encourage you to get it. I'm listening to it on Audible, but all of it is about how to properly develop the correct habits that yield the successes that you want to pursue. Working on it, working?
I can't see.
So it's all about habit forming, routine forming, how to get things up and running. And the cool thing about habits and routines is they transcend the sport of bodybuilding. They transcend nutrition. They transcend training. It's applicable no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you're trying to excel at. So we have good habits and we have bad habits, obviously. We want to try and minimize the likelihood of continuing bad habits like smoking or pressing snooze on your alarm, and you want to improve the ability to hit good habits. What are you smirking about?
I'm just thinking about the fact that Robert's listed all the things that I've done wrong in my life. Smoking, you hit your snooze alarm, all the things that annoy him about me. It's fine.
So let's start with some. What are some of your self-proclaimed bad habits currently, Crystal? Currently.
I don't have bad habits.
No, whatever. You got all kinds of bad habits. You don't wake up for a damn alarm clock to save your life.
No, but I wake up on time for my day. I just don't wake up super early.
I'm your alarm clock.
That's fine. I'll snooze.
But you used to also smoke. You don't smoke currently.
Yep.
How'd you break that bad habit? I gave her an ultimatum. I wouldn't kiss her if she smoked. That
is true. He wouldn't. But I actually quit before Robert and I went on our first date. Tried to quit at least. And I went to go have a surgery, and the doctor pretty much told me that I needed to quit smoking. So that's when I actually started using a vape pen, which if you know anything about vape pens, you realize that they're probably not much better than a cigarette. And I used that for a year, and every month I would knock down the nicotine level to try and get myself away from the nicotine. And then I finally got down to 0 nicotine and was just kind of like addicted to the habit of putting it up to my mouth. And then I substituted sunflower seeds for the pen. So I would just like to put sunflower seeds in and then kind of spit them out. And I used that for a while. And then after that, I just said, okay, I'm done. I don't need to have sunflower seeds anymore, and rid of my habit. How many years has it been?
I don't know.
4 years. It's been as long as I've been keto.
You haven't smoked?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's that.
So one of the main principles of this book is you have to have like this risk and reward system. So people try and start a new habit by like, I'm going to wake up early, but there's no risk associated with not waking up early. So if there's no risk associated with not doing what you're setting out to do, you're much less likely to actually follow through and do it. So you have to have like a punishment system almost. And that sounds weird, like we're punishing ourselves, like what are we, dogs or something? But you need to have an inherent risk and reward system in order to actually continually keep up on whatever you're trying to keep up with. So in that situation, her punishment for smoking was she wouldn't get a kiss from me. And that worked pretty well, right?
Robert would like to claim that he's the reason I quit, and he's not. So
a pretty big part of it.
You can try, but it's fine.
But suffice it to say, you have to have a risk and reward system to whatever habit you're trying to make or break. So, for instance, I've been trying to write a book, and I've been procrastinating on writing this book. So I set out this small goal of writing no less than 500 words a day, and I would try and have like a random point throughout the day in which I'd write those 500 words. So, and oftentimes I wouldn't do it. Like I would get busy, the day would happen, it would come, and it would go. My opportunity for writing that 500 word, goal would pass me, and then I would feel bad for it. So instead, what I would do is I would start writing those 500 words at the very beginning of the day, no matter what else happened, without fail, without distraction. Because if you wait for something to happen, oftentimes you get distracted with the day-to-day. A lot of people do that with working out. They'll work out first thing in the morning before they start taking calls, before they start answering emails. Because if you start digging into emails or whatever the distraction may be, you're much less likely to find the motivation and find the time to block out and actually hit whatever that target goal is. So personally, I like doing things that are of high importance, high creativity demand before anything else happens today. Then after all that's said and done, I can start my day and check off the normal to-do things. So for you, Crystal, what is like you're not really a morning person. So we'll use her as an example of not really being a morning person. When do you carve out as like, that's your undisturbed creative time to just knock out what you need to do without fail?
My day is freaking insane.
So
I don't get one.
She doesn't get one. She doesn't make one.
I would make one, but my husband wouldn't be very happy with the time that I chose.
All right, we're not making much value here.
I really don't have any because I would have to wake up earlier and I like to sleep.
But you still are pretty productive. I mean, you've got a pretty good system in place now. Like somebody that has no discipline, no habits, they can look at you and be like,
I definitely have a routine, but I don't have like a time to just like sit by myself and be creative and just do. But like I wake up, I make Robert and I coffee, we go for a walk and we like ease into the day, and then I work out and I get like the super important things done in the morning, and then we have our morning meeting with the crew, and that kind of starts my work day. And then as I'm ending the evening, I've been really good at trying to like stop my work at a specific time and giving myself enough time to, kind of tidy up the house a little bit, spend time with Robert, and then chill out for the rest of the evening and then go to bed at a decent time. So I definitely have like a morning routine and an evening routine. I'd like to get the evening routine like a little bit more down. I like to get better at like washing my face and things like that, and just like getting in a little bit of me time. I really don't get a lot of me time. Robert's me time is like in the morning, and I can't even dig deep enough into myself to feel like it's me time in the morning. But I definitely feel like that's something that like would be a good habit for myself, is to like figure out a time that's really good to just like be,
I feel like this is really applicable when it comes to like meal prepping. I feel like a lot of people, just got their nutritional requirements in check and got their meals more or less prepped. Their ability to stick to any given nutritional plan would be much more inherently easier. But what happens is a lot of people, they don't take the preliminary effort to meal prep, and they're stuck kind of behind the gun trying to find a way to get a meal in, without having calculated the macros, without having to know the nutritional value. They'll worse get something, on the go, like fast food. And I feel like figuring out a time during your week that you could set aside and block out for meal prepping would be a pretty good habit to get into, and it'd be a pretty sustainable thing. You just can't, like when you stick to something, when you commit to doing something, whether it be big or small, you just have to follow through with it. Like I've committed to shooting my bow every single day. I've committed to shooting or to running at least a mile every single day. When it becomes a non-negotiable in your life, you're more likely to stick with it, because it's not an option not to. And only you can make that a defining thing in your brain. Like, is this going to be an option that you can get away with not doing, or is it going to be something you're going to stick to no matter what? And I feel like having that is, for me, with my personality type, makes a lot of sense.
I think that having like a morning routine has really set up my day for success. And a lot of times people are like, how do you find the motivation to do all the things that you do? Or how do you find the motivation to get up and work out? And how do you find that? And it's not really motivation. It's just discipline to stick to what you've created as what's going to be your routine and what's going to be your habits. And you get to choose what that is, but you just have to have discipline in deciding like that's what you're going to continue to do over time. And it's discipline in your routine, discipline in your your lifestyle and the habits that you choose to have, the habits that you choose to get rid of. I've gotten rid of so many bad habits, like ridiculously bad habits, in the last 5 years or so. And I feel like it's made me a different person. It's made me desire to want more and to be more. So like if you have bad habits that you know you have, like me, like I was addicted to nicotine, and that is like one of the hardest habits to break. It's like the habit of always wanting, or the routine of having one in the morning with coffee or whatever. I promise you can get over it, and I promise you can get through it. You just have to choose that it is more important than not. It is more important for the outcome of that to happen. Like you just have to make that decision, and no one else can make that for you. That's why I think it's funny that Robert thinks it's like him, because you have.
I say that as a joke.
I know, but you like have to make that decision for yourself. You have to want better for yourself, and yeah. So that's it.
All right, let's dive into some of these questions. We got Brandon Knight. What's up, Brandon? We got Shannon Bailey. What's up, Shannon? We got good day from Brisbane, Australia. That's a long ways away.
Beautiful, Crystal. Thank you.
Great book again. Congrats on your space upgrade. So excited to watch this transition. Well, thank you.
Got a bunch of hi hellos over here.
We do. Good day from Southern California. Howdy, howdy. Your thoughts on stevia and monk fruit? All right, so I like stevia, and I like monk fruit a little bit less. I would say between the two, I would always gravitate towards stevia over monk fruit. I just respond better to stevia. There's a whole bunch of sweeteners out there, but of all the sweeteners, stevia and monk fruit are the only ones that I actually really would consider consuming. I don't like xylitol. I don't like I don't eat allulose at all. I don't recommend allulose at all. I know allulose has been given this halo, and there's a lot of products coming out with allulose, but I would definitely not recommend allulose. There's just total nutritional void in that, so don't recommend that at all. But yeah, stevia and monk fruit are pretty good. So we got one here from TC. TC's life. If I don't cook and portion up my meals on the weekend, I don't eat well.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes me about an hour to do a week's worth of meals. I don't do anything fancy, just basics. Yeah, that's so huge. And it's so, like, people say they don't have time to meal prep, but you don't have time not to meal prep. Honestly, like, you don't have to meal prep if you don't want to, but if you're trying to reach a goal and you know that meal prep would get you closer to that goal, you're going to spend far less time meal prepping than you are constantly trying to tweak your macros and figure out what else will fit. It just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I actually was just talking to a client about that. Like, just because they were having a hard time like figuring out their macros on a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, if you could just prep all of your meals in one day for like the 5 weekdays that you work, that would be so easy and so less time consuming than trying to figure it out. And then if your family wants to eat something else, then make something for them, make something super easy, stick something in the crock pot for them if they want to eat something separate. But at least your meals are done and in the fridge and ready to go, and you can just pop it in the oven or the microwave or whatever you use.
Nadia says, Robert, it's your characteristic that helps you with your routine and habits. I don't know if that's a question discipline or a statement.
I think it's his discipline.
I think like humans by nature are not likely to gravitate towards a path of more resistance. Humans always gravitate towards path of least resistance unless you're just weird. And I am definitely weird with some things, and I gravitate towards the harder things. But people just need to be self-aware enough to know what their triggers are and then kind of like plan accordingly to correct course. And anybody can do that, like whether they have the same characteristics as me or not. Evening. Good evening to you.
My first live, usually watching it later on YouTube. Hi from Melbourne, Australia. Love you guys.
What time is it in Melbourne, Australia right now? What's your opinion on battle rope workouts? I've never done a full-blown battle rope workout. I've done battle ropes in my workouts, and I like them a lot.
I think they can be probably pretty difficult.
Yeah, they're freaking brutal. Like I get worn out with them.
Yeah, especially like they have like different grips that you can do and everything.
Brandon Scott says, some good-looking people right there. Thank you, Brandon. You're a good-looking dude yourself. Cool. Thanks, you betcha.
Jonathan says, hello.
Jonathan, your stuff came in the mail today.
Yep.
It's time to be savage.
It is 8:15 a.m. here in Australia. Well, that's a pretty good time for
it's
live.
reasonable. People stuck in ISO, living alone, working from home, do you have any tips for keeping the mindset positive? There's a lot of things that you can do to keep the mindset positive if you're stuck at home with the COVID virus. Go for it.
Okay, my suggestion would be to stay in a routine. Stay in a routine of waking up early and doing a like journaling or time for yourself in the morning. Make sure that you're working out. Get outside. Maybe do your workout outside, and stick to that routine. Eat really good. If you're locked up, then you probably have time to cook some like extra fun foods. And then also, I think that all of that, staying in a routine and staying like a lot of things, staying consistent can help you with that mindset. Also, when my whole family was kind of in lockdown, they're in like Oregon, California, Washington area. We did a weekly Zoom call with my family, and it was my entire family got on there. So like get on Zoom calls with your friends or your family, or like jump on lives like this and interact with other humans. I don't know what you do for a job, but you said you're working from home. So if you have the opportunity to like talk to as many people as you can and still get that human interaction as much as you can, even when you're locked down. But I would do that by like scheduling it out, because sometimes when you're spending time by yourself, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna like watch TV, or like I'm gonna watch this video or whatever. It's important to have that human connection and talk to someone and allow them to have a conversation back with you, not through text message, but like really eye to eye would be best through video.
I like it. Wisdom Battle says, I boil eggs for quick filler of protein and fat. You guys rock. Yeah, eggs are nice because it's got like a perfect, pretty much 5 and 5, 5 and 6 protein to fat, or fat to protein. So pretty easy to make.
I am a male doing keto carnivore, 100% nose to tail, goal to gain as much muscle as possible, 30 pounds over the next year. Anyways, I guess that was maybe.
D'Agostino said on Mark Bell podcast that keto is likely not ideal to gain muscle.
I disagree because I built all my muscle on keto.
Yeah, as long as you're in a caloric surplus, you can build muscle in a caloric deficit, but you're going to be able to get a lot more efficient muscle built if you're in a caloric surplus and you're training properly to provide enough stimulus, and you've got muscle protein synthesis activated, and you're going to be able to build muscle on keto, no problem.
Maybe I hope that this doesn't come off as a bad way, but maybe think of like a realistic goal for gaining muscle over a certain period of time. I think sometimes there are misunderstandings of how much muscle you can actually gain in a certain period of time. It's going to be different for everybody's body. But if you're doing something naturally, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to gain muscle over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It takes a lot of time to build that up naturally. So just make sure that your goals are realistic and you are, aren't trying to like do anything and then letting yourself down a little bit.
Kelly says, congrats on new compound. Crystal, how's your dad doing? Have been thinking of him.
I am going to do a video on him. He's doing good, but he had some health issues, not to do with like keto and everything, but he's had some health issues. So it has kind of given him a little setback, but he's sticking to his food and all of that. So he's doing really good, but I plan on doing a new YouTube video on him in the next couple of weeks.
Megan says, oh man, late. Congrats on the new compound. Well, thank you very much, Megan.
D'Agostino said keto not likely ideal even with Atkins high protein version of keto. Is that your experience too? We stick to high fat keto 100% of the time.
We have enough protein. Like we don't do low protein. Like I'm eating probably 200 grams of protein a day right now. I have enough calories though that I can get that in while still having a high fat ratio.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. Everyone has kind of like a different perspective and view on what they think works best for them or they know works best for them. But Yeah, we do a high fat, but we have plenty of protein in order to use that to build the muscle.
Nadia says it's 8:15 a.m. Sydney and Melbourne. I'm hopeless at routine and habits. I work full time and stress from house selling and too much to do. I am nearly 60. I work from home. I make sure nutrition is good. Lots of steak and eggs in the fridge to make super simple meals. Yeah, I mean, habits, like, we all have habits, whether we recognize it or not. Some habits are good, some habits are bad. But I would definitely recommend this book that I'm reading right now if you're interested in improving your habits. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Shannon says, if you have a lot of fat to lose, should you eat a lot of fat? So,
good question.
It kind of depends, and it depends on the context of how long you've been keto adapted, and it's going to be very highly individualized. I believe, and I have experienced both myself and clients, that having a high amount of dietary fat improves your efficiency, your body's efficiency at burning fat, whether that be stored fat or dietary fat. So I always tend to go with a higher fat ratio. Plus, that's where you're getting your energy from if you're keto adapted. So I would rather have more dietary fat, have more energy to have better training, and then just make sure that my calories where they need to be, and that I'm taking in enough protein so I'm not muscle wasting. But yeah, I've always lost all of my body fat for competition preps in the context of a high fat version of keto.
Mm-hmm. Does the high calories kick you out of ketosis to gain muscle size? Are you blood testing, and how often to know if you are in ketosis?
Great question. So when you're in a caloric surplus, you will have lower ketones. That is going to happen. It does not necessarily mean you're any less keto adapted. It just means that you're in a caloric surplus and you're going to have less ketones. Ketones by default is basically the fat oxidation of your stored body fat, which releases those ketone bodies, and that's what's getting measured in the blood test. However, when you're in a caloric surplus, you're not going to be burning as much body fat. You're going to have lower ketones, probably going to even have a little bit higher glucose. But if that's all you're consuming, that doesn't mean that you're any less keto adapted. So you're still fully ketotic. You're just not having as high a number on the test.
They were also talking about how there's a doctor that does a paleo keto diet and has patients calorie restrict just to stay in ketosis. If they're doing something for their health, then fasting or being in a caloric deficit might actually be beneficial for someone who is doing something for a health benefit, like seizures or cancer patients or things like that. But there is no reason to be in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time to have more ketones if you're worried about building muscle. Maybe if you're worried about health issues, then you would need to fast or do something like that. But if you're trying to build muscle, then I would definitely not recommend you do a calorie restriction.
Any helpful tips with sodium intake, recommendations of daily amounts of sodium? So your body is smart. Your body's going to take your sodium, your potassium, your magnesium, your calcium, and it's going to take your water intake. And basically it's going to look for an equilibrium of all those electrolytes and your hydration levels. Your body can reset that equilibrium at a higher level or a lower level depending on what you put in, what you take out, how much you're sweating, all that stuff. So what I like to do is try and find a consistent intake that you don't really stray from, consistent intake of water, consistent intake of these electrolytes, and see how you feel. Your body's going to reset to that equilibrium. A good ratio is about a 2-to-1 ratio of sodium to potassium. In fact, that's the best ratio just overall. So a good starting point would be about 4,000 milligrams of sodium, 2,000 milligrams of potassium, and then 90 ounces to a gallon of water. And that should be a pretty good place to start, and then you can kind of tweak from there as needed. Shannon Bailey says, thank you. You're welcome. Any questions on Instagram here?
Nope.
We caught up?
We caught up.
Whoa. Well, in that case, I'm going to get the grill going, slap a rib on the grill, but I got to run 1.5 miles first. So that's what I'm going to do. But we need another question for next week. So whoever submits the next question will be next week's question.
You'll get your question answered next week.
Yes, and you get your question answered next week. So what is the question for next week? Throw one out there, y'all. We need you to throw out a question while we drink our topos. We don't have any more lime topos. Just the grapefruit.
It's my favorite one.
What are biggest differences of training on keto? That's a great question. That will be our question for next week.
Wait, what does that mean?
I'm assuming.
Different types of training on keto?
Yeah, like how would you change your training on a keto diet versus a traditional bro diet or
Okay.
flexible diet? I'm assuming that's what it's asking. So that'll be our question for next week.
Cool.
Biggest training differences on keto versus other diets. We will see y'all next week, and we appreciate y'all for tuning in. Take care and toodaloo.
Toodaloo.